Hey folks, welcome to Unidentified. I am Lindell. This is Catherine from Fighting Crime. If you're looking for the weather, if you tuned in for the weather, our weatherman's at the beach. So, no weather today. All right. So, like I do every week on this segment, we're going to start with a location. Right? I like to start with a location and zero it down. So, what we're looking at here is the Timothy community. It's between Newton Grove and Dunn, near Spivey's Corner. That's where the hollering contest is. You ever been over that way?
Not at all.
Have you ever been over to Newton Grove?
Nope.
Ever been to Dunn?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people been to Dunn because it's on the highway.
Yep.
All right. So this is Lois Lane. I guess we'll see that in a minute. There we go. Lois Lane.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a personal
I
name.
know, Lois Lane. Well, this has absolutely nothing to do with the case, but I just find it fascinating that there's a street called Lois Lane. All right, so Easy Street. That's what we really need to talk about, right? All right, so Easy Street is in the Timothy community outside Newton Grove. There's a labor camp there. It's not so much going on now, but back then, in 1999, that labor camp was jumping. So according to the authorities, and the John Doe Network and a whole bunch of other people, there was a whole lot of prostitution and a whole lot of human trafficking going through that labor camp in 1999.
Wow.
Right? So, on July 20th, 1999, a man riding his four-wheeler found the body of a Hispanic woman in the woods about 100 yards from the camp. Right? The body had been there for 3 weeks to 2 months, and she had been stabbed in the neck and left for dead. She was 17 to 24 years old, and here is a recent forensic sketch of this lady. All right. Just like in the Three Bunnies case in Orange County, that sketch is wildly different than the one that they did 20 years ago.
Right, right.
All right, so here's a flip-flop she was wearing at the time. I don't know if that's a sandal or a flip-flop. I'm not up on women's shoe fashion. But also, and they only found one, by the way, so we don't know where the other one went. And then the thing that I think is the most fascinating part of this case is she was wearing a Elle brand watch. Now, I tracked these down. That Elle brand watch was only made a certain few years in the 80s and 90s, and what it was people who subscribed to Elle magazine would get a free watch in the mail. So, you know, who knows how she came about it. I mean, she could have done that, or it could have been, you know, given to her. Authorities think that she was a victim of human trafficking or a prostitute who was murdered there. So,
came from Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know where she came from, right? So, all right. This week's newspaper's got a whole long list of people. You know, you talked about the exclusion in that Pennsylvania case.
Right.
I got a whole long list of women, dozen women or so, that have been excluded as being this woman. Right?
Okay.
So that'll save some people some time if they want to check out the newspaper. Like I said, they believe that she was a victim of human trafficking or prostitution, right? She was 5 feet 6 inches, weighed about 110 pounds. She had long red hair and blue painted fingernails. They don't know what color her eye color was because she didn't have eyes. It's always, I have to say that like every week, you know, it's like we don't know their eye color, and then finally somebody asked me, well, why don't they know their eye color? Well, because they were skeletons. Anybody with information can call the Sampson County Sheriff's Office at 910-592-4141, the State Bureau of Investigation at 910-486-1262, or Team Cold Case at 252-406-6736. Okay, now I've went through the spiel, so I'm out of notes. So now you get to talk.
Oh, wow.
So you've posted a lot of unidentified bodies over the years, right? I mean, like you know, we talked about Baby Don Nash, which that was the case that I launched this whole unidentified project with, was Baby John Nash.
I didn't know there were so many in the area until you started on the unidentified segment.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was that many.
And the funny thing about that is, you would think Charlotte or Raleigh would be the capital for unidentified bodies, but it's actually Johnston County.
Wow,
And almost
really?
all of those are migrant workers from the 70s or 80s. I wrote something about that for the Wilson Times a couple years ago when I first got there. And, just like with this lady. The chances of figuring out who this poor girl is really slim to none, because if she did come here from Mexico or Honduras or wherever, the chances of finding her, are greatly diminished. However, we talked about the DNA genealogy.
That's right.
I have a real hard problem saying genealogy. It's like aluminum for some people.
Oh my goodness.
Who knows, in 5 years,
Right.
technology advancing like it is in that field, maybe in 5 years we'll know exactly where she came from.
Right.
So that's the hope. Like you said, I've always was wary about giving up my DNA, but now that I see what it does,
That's right.
and where it can help,
I think it's very interesting.
it is. It's I'm going to get Leslie Kaufman is the genealogist that actually read one of the stories that I wrote recently about this and contacted me, and then we talked about some cases.
You and I should do it together and then bring it to the show and show what we get back.
Yeah. Is there?
To show how good it could be.
Are you going to pay for it?
I don't know how much it is, but we'll figure it out.
If they should do it. I mean, that is another thing that I've been on my local legislative people about, and that is DNA just costs too much.
It does cost a lot. It really does.
I don't want to get into a lot of details because I'm going to talk about it later, but I had a gentleman that thought that a story that I wrote years ago was his mother.
Oh my.
And so he contacted police, and just like in the case in Pennsylvania, everything matched up. So they took his DNA, and then they said, okay, it'll be a year.
Yeah.
And the guy's been without his mom for decades, and now he has to wait a year to find out.
Right.
So we did some calling and different stuff like that, and we whittled that down significantly. But I mean, there's not a lot of money in the DNA, especially in unidentified bodies, because again, like I've said many times before, missing persons are taken care of by the families.
Right.
Law enforcement does a great job with unsolved homicide. But when it comes to unidentified body, it's like a hot potato.
Right.
You go on NamUs, which is a website for missing people, the national website for missing people and unidentified bodies, and for people who are unidentified, living people who don't know who they are. I found that fascinating.
Yeah,
there's some people on there that live in people who don't know who they are, and they need help figuring out who they are. So you go on there and you look at it, and oftentimes with these unidentified body cases, I'm so glad I remember what I was. Sometimes on this show I got a point and I forget what it is, and then I just stumble around for a minute. But you go on the name of site for these unidentified bodies, and sometimes on some of these cases there's no investigating agency.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, so like if a skeleton's found in the woods in 1975, nobody wants.
Right.
Nobody wants it. No one wants to, because that's another. I guess that's another case that they haven't solved. So I mean,
Right.
And the thing about that though is like some of these nameless cases, they don't say what the cause of death is. I just got an autopsy yesterday for a body in Lacama, which is in Wilson County. I've never been there, but I'll be going shortly. If you look at everything that's online, it just looks like he could have just had a heart attack, or when you get his autopsy back, he was shot in the back of the head with a shotgun.
Oh wow.
So it's not just an unidentified body; it's an
a homicide.
Unsolved murder, right?
It's a homicide.
So, and there are a lot of these cases where there's about 127 now in North Carolina. There's a good percentage of them that are drunks who freeze in the woods, or someone who
But
overdoses.
somebody has to be missing them.
Right.
Though.
They're a missing person regardless.
Right.
But then there's a lot of these cases where, I mean, it is homicide.
Yeah.
And it's not an unidentified body case. It's a homicide case. We
really
just don't
is.
know who the
Yeah.
victim, the identity of the victim is.
Right.
So the thing that I'm trying to accomplish 3 things with this unidentified project. One is to establish a researchable Google presence.
Right.
You know, because with a lot of these cases, and you know, because you're about one of the best internet investigators, researchers I've ever known, sometimes you put in something and it ain't coming up.
That's
you know,
right.
you just, it's not
There were
coming
some
up.
stories that I was trying to find that you wrote some time ago, and I couldn't find them, and it was because the website
That's
host
right.
changed.
That's that's happened to me at 3 separate newspapers, where stories that I think are important, not because I wrote them, or not because they're any good or not, but just because they provide information. And a newspaper will switch servers, and then those stories are
gone forever.
Gone forever. So I'm trying to create a researchable database between Restoration News Media newspapers and this show on YouTube that will allow someone to come along and, you know, they know that their dad went missing 20 years ago, or their granddad went missing 40 years ago, but they don't know nothing else about him. But they can, you know, Google something. We did a
Right.
guy last week that had a very interesting tattoo.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. I mean, that tattoo's never been made public before. How is someone supposed to find, if they know that their granddad had a tattoo of that type?
That's right.
How are they supposed to find out if it ain't public? And NamUs, as much as I like NamUs, because I use NamUs every day, probably. I look at NamUs every single day, but it's not very user friendly to someone who doesn't.
Right.
NamUs is available to the public, thankfully. I mean, because we wouldn't know nothing if it wasn't. But it's not very. I mean, it's designed almost for use by law enforcement.
Right.
You know what I mean? There are parameters that you can put in there, height, weight, stuff like that. But I mean, it's not a searchable database where you can put in, you know, tattoo or you know, tattoo of a black cat and
Right.
get all the bodies
Right.
that have a tattoo of a black cat. So that's the one purpose I'm
And it
trying
would
to
be
do.
nice if they put in there the people that have been ruled out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
know.
You know, every once in a while I'll see that every once in a while. But you're right. They should have on those missing persons and on the
Like you did in the story.
Well, I pulled that. I got a couple from NamUs. I got a lot from John Doe. I think John Doe is either changed to John Doe DNA Network or
I think
went
you're
away
right.
or something.
I
'Cause
think so.
most of the John Doe stuff I find is older.
It is real old.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So,
is.
so I want people to be able to search for their loved ones.
You know, and it's sad too. Some people don't even report people missing. I mean, and that's another whole issue. You know, there's
Well, you
not
got
somebody
baby
to match
John.
him.
You got baby John Nash. I mean, they killed him, so that's why they didn't report him.
That's right. But there's plenty of other people that they just thought that they ran away, or you
That's
know,
right.
they went on their drug tangent and they're
right.
not coming back. But in all, they're a missing person. I mean, they're really a missing person or an unidentified person.
That's right.
Yeah,
And that was the problem with the Seven Bridges Road case.
That's
a lot
right.
of those women, I mean, they were finding bodies in the woods of women
Didn't
that
know
had
who they
never even
were.
been reported.
What about this one in Rocky Mount was just found? We haven't heard anything on that, but we don't know if that's a missing person or somebody was
Yeah.
dumped here from another county.
I don't
or-
know if anybody knows yet. So
That's
I mean,
right.
you know, that's
Nash County had the guy from Greensboro that's found in Castelia. It took them about a month or so, and then they released the name of who it was, and it's an unsolved murder. But those things take time, but you have to. It helps when you report. If you think somebody's missing, it won't hurt to just go ahead and report it, instead of thinking, oh, they just ran out on us.
That's right. That's very good because if anything else, it begins a file
That's
or a
right.
timeline with authorities.
right.
So, folks, if you didn't learn anything else today, like Kat said, report missing people.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy.
Right. I'm not sure exactly which case we'll talk about next week. It may be the Lucama shotgun to the back of the head case, or it may be a homeless man found dead behind a Walmart in Raleigh. We will see.